Hey adventurers, this is Mark. Welcome to Adventure Pass. Today is Throwback Thursday, and I want to keep the throwbacks coming along in regards to Tomorrowland, just because we've had a lot of discussion about Tomorrowland moving up on the timetable for an update over at Disneyland. So I want to hit another attraction on Throwback Thursday, and today we're going to talk about Adventure Through Inner Space. Um, yeah, this ride I remember very well as a young kid. Was actually pretty scared to go on this ride. The first time I went on it, probably the first few times I went on it, but over time, this became an attraction that I have uh, grown to love and an attraction that I miss very, very much. So, if you've never experienced this attraction, trust me, Disneyland used to have a ride where the entire premise was that you were being shrunk down smaller than an atom. That was the premise of the ride. So let's talk about that. Adventure Through Inner Space opened at Disneyland on August 5th, 1967. And it was part of a major transformation of Tomorrowland. And when I say major transformation, I really mean it was a big deal. This was an era that brought Disneyland, the People Mover, rocket jets, the Carousel of Progress, and the dramatically redesigned Tomorrowland. Disney was essentially rebuilding the land around the optimistic idea of what the future could look like. And right in the middle of all that adventure was the attraction that we used to know, Adventure Through Inner Space. The attraction was sponsored by Monsanto, and instead of sending guests toward the moon or another planet, Disney Imagineers had another idea. What if we went the opposite direction, right? Not up, not going to the moon, but what if we became very, very, very small? That's right. Let's go into an atom. Guest boarded vehicles called atomobiles. Love it. And approach something called Monsanto's Mighty Microscope. It's a really, really big microscope, very cool looking. And this is an illusion that I thought was fantastic that Disney did. As you entered the attraction, you could see what appeared to be other riders getting smaller and smaller inside the microscope. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So before you even began the actual ride, Disney was already convincing that you were about to shrink, and I think when I think about it, that's really what made me nervous. It wasn't the actual ride itself; it was the idea that hey, are we really going to be shrunk in this thing? And they did such a good job at convincing you and making you believe that yeah, this could happen here. Um, and then your atommobile entered the microscope, and your journey into a snowflake began. Yes, a snowflake, and I remember that. And the premise was that you were shrinking smaller and smaller until individual snow crystals appeared enormous around you. Then you went even smaller. You entered the world of molecules, then you entered atoms, and eventually you approached the nucleus of an atom itself. The narration was performed by the legendary Disney voice actor Paul Frees, who's amazing, the same voice many of you fans know as the ghost host from the Haunted Mansion. And that voice helped give the adventure through inner space almost this like mysterious, unsettling feeling because the deeper you traveled into that atom, the more the narrator began wondering, how small could he actually become? Could he keep shrinking forever? And that's what I love about the old Tomorrowland. Disney wasn't afraid to get strange and dive into the unknown. That's what was really cool. Uh, you know, Adventure Through Inner Space was important for another huge reason. Those Atomobiles introduced what Disney calls the Omni Mover ride system. And instead of individual ride vehicles constantly stopping and starting, you had that continuous chain of the vehicles that could rotate at point guests towards exactly what Disney wanted them to see. Does that sound familiar? Because that technology became very important to Disney. The Haunted Mansion would use the Omnimover concept with its doom buggies. And variations of that ride system have continued appearing in Disney attractions for decades. So even if Adventure Through Inner Space disappeared, parts of the DNA is still all over the Disney parks today. Eventually, the attraction reached its big finale. The narrator realized the snowflake was melting. Oh no, the snowflake is melting away, and the molecules became more active, and guests began returning to their normal size. You escaped inner space, right? And I remember I always believed that I shrunk really, really small and then came back at the very end, and you knew you were always going to come back at the end and not be small. And of course, because Monsanto sponsored the attraction, the exit originally led into some displays showcasing products and materials connected with that company. There was even a Sherman Brothers song associated with the attraction called Miracles from Molecules. This was a classic 1960s Tomorrowland. This was about science, industry, technology, and optimism. And it really brought the message that we were going to discover new things and to always have new ideas. And yeah, the attraction closed on September 2nd of 1985. And what replaced it? Uh, Something that completely changed Tomorrowland. And it came from a galaxy far, far away. Star Tours replaced it. And Star Tours opened in 1987 and represented a major shift in what Tomorrowland could be. And instead of primarily presenting visions of real-world science and technology, Tomorrowland increasingly began using science fiction to tell stories about the future. And Star Tours became a Disneyland classic in its own right. But I want to say Adventure Through Inner Space represents something we've lost a little bit over the years. And when people talk about updating Tomorrowland today, a lot of the conversation naturally becomes, what franchise should Disney put there? What movie? What characters? What existing Disney property do we need to put there? But the Tomorrowland of 1967 was willing to build something like Adventure Through Inner Space, an attraction built around an idea. And Imagineers basically said, atoms are fascinating. Let's build a ride about them. Let's build an amazing ride. And somehow they made it work. It was a fantastic ride. I loved it. That's why I think this attraction matters when we talk about the future of Tomorrowland. Now, I'm not necessarily going to say Disney should literally rebuild Adventure Through Inner Space exactly as it existed in 1967, but technology has changed, too much since then. But imagine a modern attraction inspired by the same philosophy. What do you think Disney Imagineers could do today with projection mapping, massive screens and sets and advanced ride vehicles and special effects? Uh, could you imagine if they redid that ride though, just for a second? Like what that would be like? It would be next level, I'm sure. It would be crazy. It would be really, really, really cool. But yeah, look, I know that's not gonna happen. But just want to end with this, right? As we continue talking about Disneyland possibly updating Tomorrowland, I think it's worth remembering what Tomorrowland once was, right? The People Mover, Carousel of Progress, the rocket jets, then we had rocket rods, things like that, right? And one incredibly strange little dark ride where Disneyland convinced you that you had been shrunk smaller than an atom. Adventure Through Inner Space, right? It's here in 1967, disappears in 1985. But almost 41 years after it closed, Disney fans are still talking about it. I'm talking about it. It's a throwback because it's something I remember that was impactful to me in my life. Now, maybe the next great Tomorrowland attraction doesn't have to come from Disney's past, and it doesn't even have to come from a movie. Um, Maybe it just needs to be a crazy idea. So I want to hear from you, everybody. Would you want Disney to create a modern version of Adventure Through Inner Space? Or if not, what crazy idea, what attraction would you like to see happen in Tomorrowland as we talk about the reimagining of the land in the near future? Thank you for coming with me today on this trip down nostalgia lane for Throwback Thursday for the journey through inner space. If If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Let me know what you think about this attraction. I want to hear from you all. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. And we will catch you on the next adventure. Take care, my friends. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.